Hello, and welcome to the podcast that knows, despite the push notifications we get all day telling us that the world is burning down around us, there is still good being created in the world, and we want to highlight it. Whether it's nonprofit leaders solving the world's biggest problems or a small business owner trying to make the world better with a great product or service, we want to highlight the ideas and strategies behind the good that's being made. So without further ado, you're listening to Creating Good, a podcast by Rogue Creatives hosted by me, Matt Barnes. Let's go. Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Creating Good with Matt Barnes. I'm Matt Barnes, and we got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking with Nathan Whittacre of Stimulus Technologies. We'll get to that in just a minute. He's awesome, and man, the interview was so good. We want you to be following us and be a part of the Creating Good community, creatinggood.co. That's our website. That's also our handle on Instagram, creatinggood.co. And see, we try to keep it simple for you. You just remember one thing, and it gets you to everything we are. But you can take the Creating Good pledge at creatinggood.co. You can sign up to come to our magazine launch party. This magazine is awesome, and it's kind of doing in print and through design what this podcast does. It's telling the story of people who are creating good in the world, and it is beautiful. It has come out so cool, very creative, very fun. The Rogue Creatives team and Creating Good team just knock it out of the park. It's so good. So we're having a launch party here at Rogue Collective in Newport Beach on June 20th. It's a burgers and brews party. You're welcome to join us. We would love to have you come out for that. And hang out with us for a bit. Have a burger, have a brew, check out the magazine, meet some people. It's going to be a good time. So if you're local, if you're in Southern California, we'd love to have you come on down. If you're not local and you want to fly in for it, I mean, more power to you. I think you should. Make a vacation out of it. Go to Disneyland. Bring the kids. It's fine. You can find more information about that at creatinggood.co, or if you're following us on creatinggood.co, it'll be posted on Instagram. And just, we want you to be a part of this movement. Take the pledge at creatinggood.co, the Creating Good pledge, just saying that you are committed to creating good in your life. And we'll give you a little badge you can put on your website and show others that you're committed to creating good. Like I said, we've got a creator of good here today. Such a cool interview with Nathan Whittacre. He's the CEO of Stimulus Technologies. Nathan is he's really passionate about helping people better their lives through technology, cybersecurity, and intentional culture. And he's done that at Stimulus Technologies. He's written a book, The CEO's Digital Survival Guide, a practical handbook to navigating the future. I mean, it's a guide to navigating the future. It's like how Biff got the almanac and got to a little glimpse in the future. But hopefully this book, if you get it, will help us have a better timeline than the one that Biff created in Back to the Future. Anyway, but yeah, he is a trusted advisor, mentor, and thought leader in the technology field. He's got this book, and he's just doing really cool stuff. He's using what he has, his expertise and his knowledge, to create good in the world. And hear from Nathan Whittacre from Stimulus Technologies. Welcome, Nathan Whittacre. Thanks for joining me for the podcast today.
It is my pleasure to be here.
I'm excited again to have somebody actually in person. It happens so rarely to be sitting in the studio across the desk from someone.
It's nice. I mean, most podcasts I do are behind a computer screen, so it's nice to nice to be not virtual.
Yeah. So we always start off with a segment we call 3 random questions. So I have a list of over 100 random questions, and we randomly chose 3. Are you ready?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, number 1. Where did you think you would be at this age when you were a kid?
Well, it depends on what age. When I was really young, I wanted to be an astronaut, so
nice.
maybe up in the space station or something like that. Yeah. So that's probably that or a business owner. I always thought I would run a business. So.
Yeah. Which you've done.
Which I do.
There you go. Got that one done. Okay. Question number 2. Have you ever been in a helicopter?
I have not.
Really?
Which is funny because I'm a private pilot.
Right. I saw that on your LinkedIn.
Yeah. So I've actually never, and I've plenty of friends that fly helicopters, but I have never been in a helicopter.
Interesting. Okay. I have, I'm a helicopter pilot. And, we have a flight school and do helicopters. So if you ever want to learn, get your ad on for helicopters, let us know. Sometime you're in town, we got to take you up. And
where do you fly out of?
We're at John Wayne and at Long Beach.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've flown up to Vegas many times, flying to Henderson, and It's nice out there.
What do you fly?
Robinson R66.
66.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
It's a nice plane.
It's great. I love it. It's I don't get to fly as much anymore ever since I've had kids and stuff.
I know. I know that story. Everybody asks me, "Oh, how much you fly last year?" I think the last time I flew was August or September.
Yeah.
I got to get up and got to do my IPC and a BFR check.
Yep.
I'm trying to schedule it with the CFI.
Yep.
Because I'm behind.
Yeah. Same. I'm. My partner at Rogue Aviation, he's always bugging me like, man, you gotta get back even flying again. Because I've just
give me some time back.
Oh man, it's crazy. All right, last question: deep dish, hand tossed, or thin crust pizza?
It used to be a deep dish, but now I'm a thin crust.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So you went from the real thick to the cracker.
I did. Yeah.
What?
Mostly it's just, health. Trying to reduce the amount of bread that I eat. So,
and it's not like that bread isn't like soaking up a ton of grease and everything. So it makes it, it's pretty, but it is delicious too. Okay. All right. Well, you passed 3 random questions. You feeling good?
Yeah, feel good.
Okay. All right. Well, you are the owner.
I am
of Stimulus Technologies. This is a record on the podcast. I saw on your LinkedIn. You've been doing this for 29 years and 6 months. It said.
That's it. So
that's a long time for one thing. I'm very ADD, so getting me to do something for
that doesn't mean we're doing the same
months.
thing.
That's true. Of course. Well, tell us your origin story a little bit. How you got to where you're at and what you're up to.
So with the business, I was working for a small computer store in high school.
Okay.
Always interested in computers. So it was either rocket science, aviation, or computers. That's what I was going to do.
Yeah.
And got a summer job at Image Computers. The owner was a professor at a university, and he decided he wanted to focus on teaching and his hobby of magic. And so he came to us as there was like 4 employees and said, "We're shutting down the store, and sorry guys, this is just it's just time." So that day I went home to my dad and my brother and said, we can do this. My dad had owned a couple of small businesses, and my brother and I both, had a desire to own a business. So we started my brother's garage in 1995, just building computers and helping friends and family with what they needed with technology. And helped my brother and I put us through college, and we split the company at some point. He handled our software design, and I focused on the IT services side of the business. But yeah, 29 and a half years been doing the same thing. It's a long time.
Yeah. And so today, what does that look like? What are you guys up to?
It's very different. Back then, like I said, is his garage, we were building a lot of computers, just doing small networks for companies, friends and family, residential work. And now the industry's changed dramatically, obviously, in almost 30 years. Back then, we were installing dial-up modems.
Sure.
The internet was brand new. Most people didn't have email.
Yeah.
So now it's evolved into what we call managed IT services, which is taking the entire infrastructure for small business. It's working with mostly small to mid-sized businesses and handling all their outsourced help desk, cybersecurity, PC management, everything related to their network infrastructure and cloud and internet, phones. And we are in 5 states. We have about 75 employees.
Wow.
And, it's all technology focused, but it's more proactive work.
Yeah.
Back then we didn't have the ability to be, as proactive as we do now.
Yeah.
Now we're focused on, making sure things don't happen.
Yeah.
And then we can solve problems before they do, and then get involved with our customers' businesses to translate their business needs into technology solutions.
Nice. What was it about technology for you? Was that just an opportunity, or was it something you were passionate about?
Something I was passionate about. It's funny. I've told this a number of times recently, but 4 years old, my parents bought us an Atari 800 XL, which is very similar to Commodore 64 and Apple IIe. And my brother and I just wanted to play games on it.
Yeah.
And to play games back then, we would often have to code the games. And so we taught ourselves basic programming language for magazines that we got. And that's what really got me into computers, is just learning how to do what I wanted to do with them.
Yeah.
Whether it's, playing with robotics or playing video games or connecting to other people. I got involved with what were called BBSs,
Oh yeah.
which was dial-up, modems, and got involved with that so we could, send emails. In high school, I was involved in this thing called Global Lab, where we communicated with other high schools throughout the world through the internet. So that was my first taste of the internet, is communicating with people on, environmental research in their neighborhoods, radon testing. And I thought it was really amazing that we could connect the world through these computer systems. Back then, it was all text-based. We were sending text message, basically text emails, and but it was amazing. We could send something to somebody in, Romania or China or, wherever it was at, and collaborate on these things as students.
Yeah. That is, yes. That's something that like my kids will never understand.
Mhm.
I remember, going from like writing letters to people and then waiting weeks for, in another country, and waiting weeks for them to get it and then respond and come back, and to all of a sudden and having an email
It's
address,
immediate.
and it was immediate, and it didn't matter where you were. And it's just like, that was just such a huge, I remember. And then when I was graduating college, the last thing I remember somebody telling us was, oh yeah, next year they're going to have wireless internet at the fountain outside. And I was like, that's not a thing. There's no way, wireless internet. What is that? And, but it's like seeing how these technologies have so quickly evolved and become just ubiquitous in our lives, and just so ingrained in every part of everything that we do now. I mean, you get on a plane, it doesn't have Wi-Fi, and you're like, what the heck, man?
Yeah. Well, actually, I kind of like being disconnected every once in a while.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes you can get too connected, but it's amazing anywhere in the world. I just in Costa Rica, and have cell coverage and high-speed internet, even in the rainforest of Costa Rica. And it's amazing that the technology, and it's such a short period of time. I mean, you think, in 1995, Google, YouTube, Facebook, none of that existed when I started the company. It was, dial-up modems, and you'd connect to, maybe a server. Maybe it was, Yahoo is barely starting.
AOL CDs.
AOL, got your free minutes. But I mean, that's less than 30 years.
Yeah.
And that's in the scope of the world.
Yeah.
The amount of innovation that's happened in 30 years is incredible. And I think that foretells what's going to continue to happen over the next 30 years or 100 years. We're going to see the world change again over and over again, I think acceleratedly.
Yeah. So I guess the question, and this is obviously a question that comes up for a lot of people when we talk about things like AI and all of that, which but on here we're really focused on people who are using whatever they have to create good in the world, and for further things, add to things. So how do we, in your area, how do you focus on being able to make sure that this is used for good and not evil, I guess? You know what I mean? Like, we've all seen Terminator and whatnot, but like whether it's nonprofits using it, or whatever it looks like. What does that look like for you?
I think it is a struggle because, and I mentioned we deal a lot with cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Everything that we do can be used by a hacker to do something bad.
Right.
And it's really not the tool, it's the use of the tool that can turn it negative. And I know it's frustrating whether you're, an individual or a business or a nonprofit, to have your life changed dramatically by somebody siphoning your bank account because of financial fraud, or a ransomware on your network or something like that. And there's just, because we're so connected, there are bad people in the world. I mean, they often say, 10 or 15% of the population aren't probably good people.
Right.
And so there's certainly a lot of people out there that use it for bad. The good news is that means there's hopefully 85 to 90% of the population that is good, that are constantly using it for good. So I mean, this worry about AI, Skynet, Terminator. I don't know how founded that idea is. I mean, certainly I think there's a lot of discussion we have to have as a society over, how we use it.
Sure.
and how we interoperate with it. But
Yeah.
I think what it's going to do is allow us as individuals, as all technology is done, to focus on what we're really good at and what we really enjoy, and focus on those interpersonal connections.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of things that we used to do that we don't do as much anymore that are mundane tasks
Right.
that allow us to spend more time connected to people if that's what we choose to do, which is hopefully what we do. And that's what, the whole idea behind technology is reduce the amount of labor that we have to invest to do the same things, to do those mundane tasks or repetitive tasks so that we can focus on building connections, working on thinking about the future better, or, new ideas, being creative. And that's the goal of, I think, any technology is,
Right.
give us the opportunity to do what we're good at and what we enjoy as individuals.
What steps? I mean, I guess practically, because you hear about these things like you're talking about, cyber attacks and ransomware and all that kind of stuff. If you haven't experienced it, it's this sort of nebulous out there kind of thing, And I'm sure that this is also an opportunity to plug what you do, but like that for me is this kind of out there thing, and I go like, what kind of steps can I take to safeguard against those things so that because it's the extreme would be, okay, don't use technology. That's not really
Not
practical,
feasible. Yeah.
feasible. And then the other is just, don't worry about it and hope it never happens to you. How do we do that? Like, how do we take those steps? I mean, you hear about these giant hacking things. What was it the other day? There was a big one. For like Krispy Kreme donuts got hacked or something, and you're like, what? What?
Yeah, certainly there's huge targets out there, and there's the ones that make the news.
Yeah.
The MGM attack in Las Vegas,
Right.
Colonial Pipeline a few years ago. There's just always ones that affect a large percentage of the population, or have a major impact, or financial impact. We focus on small
Sure.
businesses. Usually our clients are 10 to 25 employees. And so we focus on the things that really affect them. What we found today, the biggest issue is still email, business email compromise. Most attacks come in through some type of email that a user or individual clicks on.
Yeah.
And what these hackers do is they focus on what we call social engineering. They're trying to get the individual to do something they wouldn't necessarily do.
Right.
The whole Prince of Nigeria scheme.
Yeah.
That was the one 20 years ago, and still around. Actually, it
Yeah.
still generates money today, which is crazy. But it's clicking on the link to put in your username and password to a random website, or buying Amazon gift cards to your boss says, go buy 100 Amazon gift
That
cards.
has happened to several of my employees. In fact, it's crazy. Every time we get, usually it's intern. I don't know why. Every time we get an intern within a week or two, and this has been on and off for about 7 years, they'll get a text or an email from me, supposedly, and they're new, so they don't know that that's not my phone number or whatever, and asking them to go
Get some Amazon.
And now it's part of our orientation to let them know that fake Matt might reach out and try and don't ever do that. We've had one person, actually, we were all in a meeting and she went and did it and wasn't able to get her money back and lost I think it was like $700 or something like that. Fortunately, the other ones we always caught, but I don't even know how they're getting that information, getting that person's cell phone, or getting is it because they posted somewhere? Is it?
It's usually so hackers are using LinkedIn a lot to gather information, or your business website.
Okay.
And this is where AI is actually accelerating these type of attacks, because they can use AI to gather information faster. So maybe the intern switches their profile on LinkedIn that they're now employed by, they're doing an internship at your company. And there's just has to be an assumption that the hackers can get your information they want to.
Right.
Your email address, your phone number, probably your social security number, your home address, your birth date. I mean, guaranteed, if they wanted it, they can get that information on you.
Yeah.
So what do we do as individuals or as small businesses to protect against that? Training, I think, is an essential part of it.
Yeah.
Training your employees that, hey, look, I will never ask you to go buy Amazon gift cards. And if I do, I'm going to communicate with you multiple channels. I'm going to call you up on the phone. I'm going to send you a business email, but I'm not going to ask you to use your personal money to do it, I mean, ever. So, that type of training is essential. And, using AI to protect your company against AI. So using sophisticated AI email protection systems are now essential. So having all your emails filtered through a scanner that's looking for that type of communication.
Okay.
And then on your computers too, having advanced antivirus and those malware protection type systems. So we have to up our protection to prevent these type of attacks. But social engineering is a big most of these attacks are involved in social engineering, which means they're going to get you to do something that you don't necessarily want to do. It's always critical.
Yeah.
They're going to say, this is a rush, got to do it now, got to got to do this at the moment. And they're going to use some type of information that they've garnered from you from publicly available information, through LinkedIn, your company website, maybe, social media pages. And they're going to use that information to give you enough, context to the request that makes it seem like it's legit.
Yeah.
And how to prevent that is use another form of communication. If you get a text message, you pick up the phone to the number send an email, walk over to the person to their desk and say, did you ask me to do this? And it's all about slowing down.
Right.
Everybody needs to when something like that happens, take a breath.
Yeah.
Slow down, question it.
Yeah.
And then take an alternate action to verify the information. So business email compromise, that's the biggest threat to small businesses. We're seeing SMS compromise too a lot. I'm sure everybody's gotten the text message say, is this Bobby? Or I have this phone number in my contact, can you help me out? And the FBI has actually put out a recent warning that's actually garnered a lot of problems recently with individual threats, financial compromise. People, build this friendship up with this random person through text messaging, and then suddenly they make a request to do some type of investment, and it appears and feels legitimate by that point because they build a rapport.
Yeah.
And then there's fraud. So that's it's just slowing down. I hate to say it, but not having as much trust with people, especially electronically, and just taking that time. So, training, email protection, computer protection, and then you can build in more security beyond that. But that prevents like 99% of the threats that are out there.
With the text spam, that one it's been happening a lot, where they're asking information, or they're just trying to, oh, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Are you still want to meet up? You're like,
I'm visiting Newport. Can you tell me where to go?
Yeah, exactly. Is it best just to delete those and don't respond, don't engage, don't anything?
Yeah, unless you want to have fun for a minute. And
yeah, I did respond to one, I think a week or two ago, that was like, hey, what are you doing? And I said, randomly spamming a lot of people, and and they did not respond after that. So
yeah, just delete them. Don't correspond, because they're trying to build up some type of rapport with you.
Sure.
And they'll give you something, and then they'll ask for something in return. And it's part of the whole social engineering that's part of building trust with the individual. So, just best to delete it and mark it as spam. And the cell phone companies are trying to put in protections in place, but they're still, if the hackers are willing to pay money to get those texts out, they can get them out.
Right.
And I feel like the cell phone companies need to do more to prevent against that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's the emails that look like they're, even designed to look like they're from UPS or from whatever. And it's, or your bank, and click here to, that kind of thing. And sometimes they look legit. Very legit. But if you click on the email address, you can see it's from usually from a fake email, or some Gmail or some whatever.
Yeah, what we really try to do with those is again, having that advanced scanner that can detect that by context.
Right.
So what AI can really do with large language models is look at context, look at the language that's used. So prior, when we're just looking at data on an email,
Yeah.
you're looking at the that trying to figure out if that email address is valid or looking for bad links.
Right.
But it's not looking at the context. It's not scanning and saying, this is an email that appears to be from a bank. It's a communication from the bank. It should match up with a bank's email address.
Right.
Now, AI can do that. AI can look at the entire context, build a language in that email and say, by context, this should be coming from Wells Fargo.
Right.
And it's now, it's coming from,
Whatever,
a Gmail or Weltargo. Or something like that.
Exactly.
And that's what AI and a good AI scanner can do is understand the language of the email and say, this is not matching. This is not a legitimate type of communication from that email. This should be, that doesn't match.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. I haven't heard much about AI being used for that. Like our servers, our email provider and all that stuff, they have, spam detection and all that kind of stuff built in, but stuff still gets through. But I haven't heard even them kind of advertise it as AI. So is that an additional? Is that
It is. So it's, there are several third-party services that have started incorporating AI into their email scanning. And we recommend those because it is a new layer of protection. And we found, again, your Gmail or Microsoft, Google and Microsoft, they're more interested in protecting their environment than your data. I mean, they want you to be safe, but their systems are more designed around protecting their environments. And so we generally recommend a third-party tool to ensure that the Microsoft environment that you own, that a portion of it is safe. So if you're just getting protection from Google or from Microsoft, it's probably not good enough. That having that third-party protection is essential. So it's an additional couple dollars a month per user, but it's well worth the protecting against $100,000 loss of financial fraud.
What can people who are in your field in the tech industry, what can they be doing to make sure that they're utilizing these resources for good and to help instead of hurt things?
So in the technology industry,
for other people that might be doing kind of what you do, or what are some of the things that you've found that you've so that you can to contribute to make a difference and a positive impact?
So some of the things that we do is what I'm doing right now, I guess,
Yeah.
coming on podcasts.
for sure.
And my goal over the last year and a half last while has been education, talking to people about these topics, because I think, the conversation is tough. We use in my industry a lot of acronyms and a lot of words that people don't understand. If I started spouting off, you need an EDR and an MDR and zero trust, and we use all these things, and your eyes glaze over, and I'm too small, I don't need that. And so, my goal has been to communicate in a way that people understand and really help bridge that gap beyond just the technology, and really understand where people are going and help them use it properly, but also understand how to have that conversation with the person in our industry.
Sure.
It's kind of like going to a doctor. I mean, they write you a prescription, here, take this. You look at it, you can't read their handwriting to begin with.
Right.
Don't understand the words on the paper either. And I feel like our industry has done a lot of that, unfortunately, too, is just talk over people or talk through people or say, I got it handled, and then you realize you don't. So, really having I think our industry really needs to have better conversations with people on a human level about what these things mean, and not how to use it properly, how to use the technology to better their organizations, and to communicate it well, among each other.
Yeah, because there's definitely, for those who are not in your industry, there's an intimidation factor there for sure of like, wow, it's not. I mean, every industry has that, the inside language and all of that kind of thing, right? But your industry, tech, is one that touches every industry. So everyone, there's a lot of industries that have their inside lingo. I don't need to know that. I don't need to understand it. I don't need to understand what they do. They do their thing, and occasionally I might have to hire. But tech, it's like we all rely on
Everybody
it.
does,
It's
yeah.
become the backbone of our organizations, and so, but there is definitely, I think, uh, a fear of looking stupid, or like a technological illiteracy kind of thing, where you're just like, yeah, I don't want to ask for help on that, or I don't know, like you don't even know what you don't know. And so I agree. I think the more people like you can make it accessible to somebody like me, then and I'm fairly, I don't know, tech friendly. But there's a lot of people who are not, and the more accessible you can make it and open up those conversations, I think the more, safety and all of that, people are going to be able to use the tools and use them safely.
And one of the unfortunate, for both good and bad, that's happened in the industry too over the last, 10, 15 years is, I call it the Appleification of technology. Apple has done a great job making technology appear easy.
Right.
You buy a MacBook, you buy an iPhone, you buy an iPad, and everything interconnects, everything works just perfectly.
Yeah.
As technology gets more complex, or as technology seems to be easier to the user, it's far more complex in the back end.
Right.
And sometimes there's a misunderstanding, especially in business, of why does this not work just as well as my iPhone connects to my MacBook?
Right.
And it's a little bit harder to understand that from a organization standpoint, is how do we keep it secure, and how do we make it interoperate well,
Right.
And how do we achieve the business goal or the organizational goal through that technology? Because I'm a firm believer of never implementing technology unless it achieves some type of outcome that's positive for the organization.
Yeah.
And it's fun to do technology, and that's great for hobbies, but it's not great for business. And
Right.
and unfortunately, sometimes in our industry, some people just want to do the latest technology or implement this new tool because it's cool, but it doesn't achieve the outcome. So having those right conversations to put in the technology that works right, make it still simple for the user, but it might be more complex on the back end to make it all work together. And having that understanding of what that means as an organization to make all that work together.
Yeah. Is there anything else, any other last thing that you want to say that you just want to make sure everybody knows? I guess, 'cause I don't even know what to ask as far as what that would be, but is there any last message that you would want to get out there?
I'm really excited for AI. We touched on it just briefly.
Yeah.
I think there's some really interesting technologies coming down. It's really hard right now to figure out how to implement it inside an organization, but I think over the next 2 years, we're going to see a lot of new implementations for AI that are going to touch and change the way that companies work and organizations work together. And then if anybody wants to, learn about, my perspective on technology, I have a book that I wrote, The CEO's Digital Survival Guide. If you connect with me on LinkedIn, I'd be happy to send you a copy of it.
Nice.
So, and I try to explain things in a way that are understandable and that you can, talk to your technologist and understand what he or she is saying to you. And,
I love that.
That's the goal of the book. It's just that basic understanding, basic knowledge for a CEO to really understand how to use technology inside the organization.
Nice. Last question is the one I always end on, which is, what is it in your job that brings you the most joy?
I'll answer this. I worked construction for a brief time when I was a teenager, and I thought it was really cool to drive past a building that I helped work on. I mean, I just did a very small part of it, but I could point to that building and say, I worked on that, and that's the product. When I see a company use a new technology to make their lives better, that's what brings me joy. Even though I'm in the technology field, I'm very much a people person. I enjoy seeing people's lives be better through technology, and so seeing a new process, a new technology, something new being used inside the organization that makes somebody else happy, that's what makes me happy.
Well, that's awesome. And even just, that shows just even being here today and sharing what you shared. Again, like I said, for most of us, it can be a little intimidating. It can be a little overwhelming. And there's always new. And so to have somebody like you who we feel like, gets it and is kind of helping look out for us is such a nice thing. And so I really appreciate the work that you're doing. And I hope more and more people in your field are dedicating themselves to that and making sure that people like me who are using the technology are protecting themselves and are doing it well and figuring out what is going to benefit my end goals, my business, and not just get lost in the tech of it all, I guess. Where can people find you? Where can they connect with you and your company?
So the company is Stimulus Technologies. So our website is stimulustech.com,
Okay.
or best is LinkedIn. So my last name spelled a little bit differently is Whittacre. So Nathan Whittacre, and you can find me on LinkedIn. And we post a lot. We produce a lot of content as a company and individually. So
Very cool.
Connect with me there, and happy to share future. I'm producing a lot about AI right now, just really practical ways to use it, and so and also use it securely. So
Nice.
Connect with me there, and
you said you had your own podcast, yes?
we do. So Stimulus Tech Talk, you can find us on all the podcast channels, and
Very
we
cool.
publish every other week or so.
Okay. Perfect. Well, then after, of course, you listen to Creating Good, you can go listen to Stimulus Tech Talk and get your updates there. But thank you so much for joining me today. And like I said, especially for coming in. It's
That's
so nice
fun.
to have somebody in the studio. But this is, I think, going to be such a helpful conversation for so many people. And hopefully they'll come check out what you got to say, too, because I know we barely scratched the surface of all the places we could go.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks. Creating Good with Matt Barnes is recorded at Rogue Collective in beautiful Newport Beach, California. It's hosted and executive produced by me, Matt Barnes. Post-production is by our amazing friends over at Fame, the B2B podcast agency. Writing is by Matt Barnes and Taylor Bolanos from Rogue Creatives. Creative direction and design is overseen by Corey Hill of Rogue Creatives. Theme music is composed and performed by Jared Atherton of Chapters. Huge thanks to our amazing guests for joining us this episode, and thank you to all of you incredible listeners for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, and I would imagine you did if you're still listening, so don't forget to help us spread some good by giving us a good review. Preferably like 5 stars, lots of really nice words. It's very helpful. Also, tell your friends and subscribe so we can come straight into your potholes each and every time we have a new episode. Take the Creating Good pledge on our website at creatinggood.co. We'll catch you next time. This has been a Rogue Creatives production.